Granger's all.
Hey, hello from Oklahoma City.
How are you all?
I'm blooming.
Outstanding.
So we've all had a chance now to listen to the full cast recordings, courtesy of Pottermore and Audible, of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's and or Sorcerer's Stone, depending upon the market that you're listening to it from.
Is it Philosopher's Stone in the UK?
It is absolutely Philosopher's Stone in the UK. So rather like the Warner Brothers films, for every scene where they refer to the stone, they have to make 2 takes. So they have to do a take where they're saying philosopher, and they have to do a take when they're saying sorcerer.
I'm delighted that the Commonwealth countries are getting the original. I thought, oh, they've totally capitulated to the sorcerer.
No, it's Philosopher's Stone throughout. What will be interesting, and I haven't the patience to do it, although I do have a text edition of the Sorcerer's Stone. Of course, there were lots of other cultural changes between the US print of Sorcerer's Stone and the original Philosopher's Stone. Somebody, again, probably not me, somebody would be doing valuable work to go back through those changes and just confirm how much has made it through into the Audible recording.
Yeah, I mean, Philip Nell did this work after Goblet of Fire came out about the differences between the UK Commonwealth text or just the Bloomsbury text and the Scholastic text. Whether this is, my only concern is whether it's full, whether it's been abridged or not. I don't care if it's pitch or field. I mean, sorry, not that big a concern to me. It didn't affect but I wanted to know, have they cut anything out? And I was very impressed. I think it's an unabridged, reading.
It is.
So the only thing that is abridged is all of the Harry said, Hermione said, they said. It's
yay.
Yes.
It's this. So it is actually a shorter recording because they have all the background noises and the full cast. They don't need to tell you who's talking except in like big in big scenes. I did notice that it is definitely the UK version of the text because they say jumper instead of sweater.
Oh, right. Okay.
And because I always heard the American version by Jim Dale, who always said a Weasley sweater.
Yeah.
But in this one, it's a Weasley jumper. So I was like, okay, that's cool.
Okay. Maybe we need to introduce who the guy is, Nick, below us here. Maybe.
Yes, of course. So, friends who have been watching us for many weeks has not yet had the real pleasure to be introduced to Zossima Granger, son of Dr. John Granger, and a unique perspective for us at Hogwarts Professor, because he is a creator of stories. He is a professional writer. So I feel a little bit observed when we're talking about literature with somebody who actually knows how to write on the show. Fortunately, this show isn't about writing. This is more about listening. So, John, shall I give just a brief overview of the audio recordings for Harry Potter?
You've explained why you wanted Zossima to be on the show.
Yeah,
I wanted him on the show because he's not 50s, 60s. He didn't come to these stories, in his dotage or whatever. I don't think Zossima can remember a time when he didn't have these stories as the backdrop to his life.
These stories were my childhood.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, I'm going to share your age, Zossima. Zossima is 25, which means that he was born just after the release of Goblet of Fire in 2000. And I was reading aloud to him while he was, in a on the sofa, in my lap or whatever. So this has been the backdrop to his, as he says, his childhood, and as a professional writer with a business where he writes, exciting children's stories. So is it protagonist.com or is it theprotagonist.com?
It's protagonistbook.com. I couldn't. Someone had already taken protagonist.com. Some flim flam shyster had already gotten it. But
link down below. Yeah.
Link down below. So anyway, that's why I wanted Zossima on the show. Anyway, Nick, if you can give an overview to this full cast audio thing, let's do it. Let's do it.
So I think first, this is not the first audio recording of these books, an unabridged audio recording. So the first was by Stephen Fry. Stephen Fry is a British star of the stage, screen, radio. He's a professional author, best-selling author, both his own autobiography. He's written fiction works. He's done a best-selling overview of classical mythology, which is on my to-be-read list. Classically studied. He trained at Cambridge. He was part of the Cambridge Footlights, that same remarkable organization that brought Monty Python and other great comedies to the world. When he was a member there, he acted and performed alongside Hugh Laurie and also the actress Emma Thompson. Huge star in the UK as part of a comedy double act. So Stephen Fry and Hugh Laurie were Fry and Laurie, a comedy double act. They did lots of award-winning sketch shows between 1990 and 1993. They broadcast for television adaptations of Jeeves and Wooster, 23-hour-long adaptations. Again, huge success. And then Hugh Laurie moved to the United States into almost total obscurity. He played this Dr. Gregory House on some sort of television program, disappeared out of sight until he's now sprung back onto the world stage. He is Dumbledore in the all-cast recordings of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. So it's welcome back to the limelight for Hugh Laurie. Stephen Fry recorded Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone in the middle of 1999, and it was first released into the UK on the 22nd of November 1999. And then the following Christmas, so Boxing Day, which in the UK is the day after Christmas, Boxing Day 2000, BBC Radio 4 cleared its schedule from midday through till 9:15 at night, and they played the Stephen Fry edition of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone all that afternoon and well into the evening. As BBC Radio 4 is the prestige, is the premier radio channel for BBC. This was it was an event. Very few people, I think, actually listened to the whole 8 3/4 hours, but it was on through Boxing Day. So that's the UK recording. Now, Jim Dale is also a British actor, but I think you need to call him multi-talented. So he's an actor, he's a composer, he's a director, he's a singer, he's a songwriter. He does it all apart from dance. I can't see any mention of him dancing. He first sprang to fame in the UK as a pop singer. So he works with Parlophone Records. He had 4 #1 hits. Be My Girl was his highest hit in 1957. As a songwriter, and this I didn't know, so he was the lyricist for the film Georgie Girl. He
Kidding me? This is
he wrote
incredible.
all of those tunes. Honestly, the man is a talent. In the UK, he is best known. When I say best known, every man, woman, and child will recognise Jim Dale both by looks and his voice for the Carry On films. The Carry On films were a series of somewhat saucy, bawdy films in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. He starred in 11 of those films. Usually, he played the hapless romantic lead. But it's the kind of films that are constantly showing on repeat. A little bit less fashionable these days as our taste have matured, but certainly going back to the 2000s, you couldn't escape them. They were everywhere. Um, after those films, he moved to the United States and worked on Broadway. And he's been nominated for 5 Tony Awards. Honestly, this guy can do anything. He was recognized when he was in the lead for Barnum and the vast number of voices that are required for that. And the US rights for the audiobook adaptation were acquired by Listening Library. The director of that had heard Jim Dale in Barnum, and that's how he got that gig. The rights, the audiobook rights publishing in the US, guess how much they were required for? The books were 6 figures, $15,000. Now that seems like a good investment. So they were recorded only a few weeks after the UK recording. So actually, the UK and US recordings were released only a few weeks before apart from each other. Stephen Fry first, and then Jim Dale. And ever since then, there has been a transatlantic argument as to which recording is the superior. Is it Stephen Fry? Is it Jim Dale? It's a pointless argument. It's
not just transatlantic. It's North and South in North America, because the Canadians get Fry and we get Dale.
Yes. Then we've got the full cast recordings. So after that, the Harry Potter audiobooks were first published in 1999, originally on cassette and CD, and now, of course, almost most of these listens are coming through the Audible channel. To date, that is just a few months ago, they calculated that the Harry Potter series across all markets have accrued 1.4 billion listening hours. Yeah, I didn't misspeak. That's 1.4 billion. If you look at the Audible, both sales rankings and listening rankings, all 7 are in the top 20. And I can't say, because I haven't checked whether that's always been true, but I have never checked either a US or a UK sales or listening rankings and not seen all 7 Harry Potter books in the top 20. So for Audible, who actually is ponying up, seems to be ponying up the full cost of this 200 cast recording, this seems like a good business, because, since this has been released now, just almost a month ago, that's always been on the top of the sales and listening chart as well. This is Harry Potter basically is driving the Audible business model.
That's spectacular. The attempts to cancel Rowling and to not spend any money on this, clearly globally,
yes,
Harry Potter is still the shared text of not only Zossima's generation, but of all reading generations. The generation that follows Zossima's is already growing up on it, and the generations surrounding us globally. Remember this. I mean, you don't get those kind of numbers. For example, if you can probably estimate how many hours are in a human lifetime, say an average of 60 years, you know what that is. If you put that against 1.4 billion things, we've got, you know, people's whole lives. It's probably 100,000 people's lives have been spent listening to this. And I know that my children, I'm not sure about the oldest ones, but the younger four of my 7 children, I think, had a memorized knowledge of Harry Potter because of their listening. And I think there's Zossima to confirm or deny, you know.
I mean, myself and my brother Timothy, without a doubt, and my sister Anastasia.
Yeah.
The 3 of us, at the very least, they had it. I still have it. Timothy also still has it, because when I'm on a phone call with him, I will say one single line in Jim Dale's voice, and he'll laugh because he knows the exact scene I'm quoting from the Jim Dale recordings, which I grew up on. And I've read each Harry Potter book many times, but I've listened to them actually hundreds of times.
Yeah.
I'm not exaggerating. I've quite honestly listened to them hundreds of times. So, and I've never listened to more than a few minutes of the Stephen Fry recordings, which I enjoyed when I listened to the little bits of it. But I've lived for so long in the Jim Dale recordings. I see no point in having a contesting voice, which was actually one of the reasons I was a bit leery about listening to this full cast, because I was wondering how I would react to someone who wasn't Jim Dale doing all the voices, and we'll get to that when we answer Nick's questions. But yeah, I had a very interesting time listening to this book.
Okay. So should we, let's start off on the round robin questions, and the first one is more about not just Harry Potter, but our relationships to audiobooks. So let me ask you first, Zossima, do you use audiobooks? Are you a frequent listener? It is, or just Harry Potter?
Yes, I am. Yeah, I'm absolutely a frequent listener since I was, audiobooks. Some of my earliest memories were my father and mother, but usually dad. He was of him reading to me and my siblings, and then we would, when I was old enough to walk, we would go to the library and get cassette tapes of Harry Potter and Chronicles of Narnia, and the Redwall series is still one of my favorite series, and it's also full cast. It has this wide range of incredible voices for this long running. It's a long running fantasy series about anthropomorphic animals, and yeah, one of my all time favorites. And so yeah, growing up,
Hank the cow dog, man.
Hank the cow dog. As a native Texan, it's a book series about this bumbling ranch dog on a cow ranch in the Texas Panhandle, and it's not full cast, but it has but it did something that I fell in love with, which is what the full cast of Harry Potter does, which is it had the sound effects and background noises, which I loved so much as a kid and still do as an adult. So my love for audiobooks never abated, and it only really increased. I probably listen to at least one audiobook every week.
Wow.
And because I try to read at least 4 books a month, but sometimes I don't. Sometimes I do one or none, but I'm usually listening to probably like at least 2 or 3 uh, audiobooks per month. So in answer to your question, audiobooks are a pretty huge part of my life.
Oh, and John?
Oh, well, audiobooks made an entry into my life right before Zossima's birth. I was working in a grocery store. I was the cash up. I was the guy who counted the money. And it's pretty mindless. And so I started to listen to, most of the cash ups would listen to music. I brought in audiobooks from the Houston Public Library on cassette and listened to all of Jane Austen, all of Charles Dickens. I mean, it was really the admittance to my life of imaginative fiction was via audiobooks. And then it just stopped. You know, I there were some moments in my life where it reappeared, but I don't have anything like my children's relationship with Jim Dale. If Zossima made those references, I might get the reference to the book because I know the books that well, but I wouldn't be able to get the inflection, you know, the Dale joke. But Nick, you're a listener too, right?
So my name is Nick Jeffery, and I am an audiobook addict. This is hi. So this is a recent addiction. This affliction has only come on in recent years. The first audiobook I ever listened to was given to me by a very dear friend in the Galbraith fandom. It was the audiobook to Christmas Pig, another full cast edition, and it blew me away. Absolutely fell in love with it. And only a few weeks after that, I took out an Audible subscription, and I am now in deep. So I listen to about 20 hours of audiobooks every week, and I'm such a creature of habit. So when I'm walking the dog, which I do for an hour on weekdays and 3 hours each day on the weekend, I have an audiobook in. When I'm commuting to and from work, I have an audiobook in, because they are both activities which may require a lot of perception and awareness, but don't require me to think hardly at all. If I'm driving somewhere I don't know, I can't listen to an audiobook. If I'm walking somewhere I don't know or with other people, I can't listen to an audiobook. But taking the dog for a walk or commuting to and from work, audiobook, and that's about 24 hours, about 20 hours a week. I listened to audiobooks through a lot of experimentation. If it's just in a narrator, I listen to it at 1.7 speed. And at 1.7 speed, I can clear on average 2 audiobooks every week. And I listen to about 2 audiobooks a week, and I read one textbook by text a week. So I do about three books a week, give or take. Yes, I can't imagine my life without audiobooks now, because I just get through so many on my reading list. And what I like to do, both text and audio, is I have a listen list to books I've never heard before or never read before, and I've got a re-listen list. And I will do one re-listen and one brand new book. Not every book I listen to makes it to my re-listen list. It's got to be something I think is definitely worth engaging with again. But I try and mix it up so that you can get that extra depth on the second and sort of third time round. But having said that, I've got about 300 books in my library of books I haven't started yet. So as always, my eyes.
For example, I haven't listened to Hallmark Man yet by Robert Clancy. I haven't listened to that yet. that it's just, and I've never listened to Ink Black Heart on the audio. This is amazing to me that I'm in this press. We invited, other people to come on the show.
Yeah.
And they didn't join us because they hadn't listened to this yet. And I thought, okay, so I'm not the only person in the world that hadn't listened to this thing yet.
No, but I'm pleased to say they've all said yet, rather than I don't do audiobooks.
Okay. But it is curious that and we invited, of course, Potter pundits of the first rank.
Yeah.
That this isn't a priority to them.
No.
This didn't jump to the head of their queue like yours. This crowded queue to do this. It's just like this. It's just not something that they do. So yeah, I'm representing that crowd, the people that have maybe listened to audiobooks. It's been a part of their life, but it's not that important to their life. Okay. Well, so I thought I was going to be, I'm not a frequent listener, so I represent that whole crowd here. Okay. I'm gonna ask a question here. Zossima's already shared that the Jim Dale Potter adaptations were an important part of his experience of the Hogwarts saga. I mean, that he has, I don't know how many hours the whole thing is, but that he has got those things, imprinted in his head. Nick, how did you first read the Potter stories? And no, it couldn't have been because you just started at Christmas Pig. Anyway,
yes.
How have you listened to the Fry adaptations?
Yes. Yes. So I have. You need to bear in mind that I'm a fairly recent Potter convert. So I first read the books well into middle age. I think it was 2018, 2019. I read the text edition straight off the back of Casual Vacancy. I thought if somebody's going to write a book like Casual Vacancy, there's got to be lots of grim death and destruction in the Harry Potter books. Got to check those out.
You say text, you mean digital, right?
I mean digital. Yeah, digital text. So virtual text. And I have to admit, I haven't yet reread the Harry Potter series in text, but it was the first audiobooks that I purchased after Christmas Pig. So I have listened to the Fry audiobooks. Of course, they made it onto my re-listen list. So I've now listened to the Fry series twice. I haven't listened to Jim Dale, and I'd like to, but unfortunately, the Jim Dale is still not available in the UK market. There's something to do with that licensing. I understand in the States now you can purchase the Fry editions, but you can't get the Dale editions over here. And he's British. He's a son of the Northwest here. We really ought to be able to.
Maybe they're still upset that he moved to the United States. I had just said that I'm not a frequent listener, but I will say that there was one listen that I did to the Jim Dale text was when we moved from just outside Houston, Texas to the Olympic Peninsula of Washington State in 2001. And it's a long trip, Nick. I think it's you'd be in the North Sea and coming back, maybe doing that trip 2 or 3 times. It's a long way.
We don't drive that far, John.
No, that's right. From the Gulf Coast to the Northwest Coast. I mean, that's when you're out by Forks, Washington, with the vampires, you're really out there. And so that's where we were headed. Dear friend of ours drove us out there, James Devine. We had the van, with all the church van with all the kids, and we had the big van, and both vehicles were powered by Jim Dale audiobooks. Everybody just hanging on the stories. And I bought those things at that time so that kids could listen to those things. That was their first listening. That was my first listening as well. I mean, the kids all heard the first 4 books with me reading it out loud, and the older ones that were already reading it. But everybody got to listen to Jim Dale on the long trip up there. And I think it was a very pleasant trip because of that. But for me, it was my third reading. I read the books before I read them aloud to the kids, so I knew what was good, if it was safe or not. And And then, so I did 2 readings, and then I listened to the Jim Dale thing while we were driving. And that really was, I mean, I had my epiphany the first time I read them to myself. The first book, Sorcerer's Stone, as it was in the Scholastic version. And I'll talk about that later. But really when I grasped that these books were a profoundly Christian series, the symbolism, and that the predominant narrative at the time was that they were dangerous for Christians and a trap for young souls, that it was the gateway to the occult. And I kicked back against that already while we were in Houston, but it wasn't until I listened to the Jim Dale version on that long drive across the United States, Gulf Coast to Northwest Coast, that Puget Sound, that that solidified everything. And the epiphanies I had, almost every day along the way, saying, "Oh my goodness," all like the expecto patronum thing. I was like, "Oh my goodness, what does that mean?" And those moments to me are, behind a wheel listening to Jim Dale. It was really a seminal part of the whole Hogwarts Professor Odyssey. So I don't listen to them frequently. I don't have a memorized knowledge of them. It drove me back into the books, but I'm very grateful for it because otherwise I wouldn't have had those moments. Really to read a book 3 times in a row, if you include the audio listening as a reading, for me was a unique experience. I had something similar like that with Dostoevsky's Brothers Karamazov, where I read it one summer and then we read it in the fall term of my senior year. And that changed my whole life. One reason I'm an Orthodox Christian was that doubling up. Here, that third, yeah, Zossima, there he is. Yeah, Dostoevsky's perfect man. So anyway, let's just say that, yeah, this has an important part of my life. I'm not a frequent listener, but this was a big deal. But Nick, you already answered the next question. Go ahead, Nick.
So yeah, of course. The full cast audio. So full cast audio is different to a narration, and we've talked a little bit about that. Zossima, have you listened to many other full cast audio?
Yes, but no. I listened to all of the Redwall books on full cast audio, and they were a limited full cast audio where it had multiple voice actors, but it didn't have any of the sound effects or background noises. It was read by the author Brian Jakes, and all the voices were by this slew of voice actors. And the Hank the Catalog books were a full-on full cast audio where, well, actually it wasn't full cast because it was just the author John R. Erickson doing all the voices. And geez, he has a range. He has a fantastic array of different animal characters, like there are buzzards and coyotes and dogs and cats, and he does pretty unique voices for each of them, but he also includes a bunch of music and background noises and sound effects. So I've never experienced something like the Harry Potter full cast until I listened to Christmas Pig, which is probably, I mean, I'd have to give it the accolade of the best recorded book I've ever listened to. Not only because of the quality of the story, but the quality of the sounds and the music and the voice actors. It was a perfect book. It was a perfect recording of it. I'm sorry to say I could not say the same for the Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, but we'll get to that.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, and Zossima and I, he'll tell you we don't often agree anymore, but on this point, The Christmas Pig adaptation is not only full cast audio, but it's a dramatization. And that's what I think Zossima was talking about, that, you know, it's the dramatization piece of it with all the sound effects and the background thing that's going on. And it's unabridged. You know, outside of cutting out the adverbs, you know, Hermione said, you know, pensively, you know, we don't get the said pensively. We just get the actress saying it pensively. Now that combination of being unabridged and a quality radio show, you know, the technology involved with the radio presentations has largely been lost. But in these dramatizations for audiobook, it comes in really strong. Christmas Pig is really a high bar, and it's unabridged. Now that's unusual. Usually dramatizations means that the book has been, you know, bowdlerized or broken down somehow. So yeah, Christmas Pig, you know, pretty much the gold standard. And whether the Harry Potter, that's what we have to gauge these Harry Potter books against, that quality. What about you, Nick? You mean it was your first introduction to audiobooks?
Yeah, it's my very first. So no wonder it's clearly a gateway drug, because it's just such an amazing experience. Since then, I've hardly listened to any, and in fact, I can say I haven't listened to any other full cast recordings. I know there are a few out there. They're not really any to books that interest me that much. There are plays. So I've listened to a few Henrik Ibsen plays: Cherry Orchard, Hedda Gabler, Enemy of the People, all very good. I have, amongst my 300 books queued up, I have a complete works of Shakespeare dramatized by the RSC, which I will listen to at some point. But
go ahead, Nick. We have an American audience.
Yeah.
That's the Royal Shakespeare Company.
Royal Shakespeare Company, based in Stratford. But a few books such as Dracula that are written in an epistolary method via letters. You'll get 2 or 3 narrators per letter, but that's not really full cast audio recording. So this is my second, I guess. This is my second one.
My only other full cast audio dramatization, unabridged, is a Focus on the Family version of Oliver Twist that came out years ago. I checked it this morning on just to see what it's selling for, and it's still selling at, you know, $30-$40. I mean, if you get it in shrink wrap, it's $115. That it's a 5 CD collection. It's unabridged. It's a high quality thing. It is done by Focus on the Family, so I'm a little worried that it's not quite unabridged, maybe a little bowdlerized, but I remember being very powerful. I listened to it, you know, one of our family's longer drives. That was very good. And I'm looking forward to, I'm gonna go to Audible and download these, because you can get 6 BBC dramatizations of Dickens novels. There's 2 collections, early years and later years. I guess that's just when they came out on the BBC. And the reason that I'm excited about them is that I'm confident that these dramatizations are severely abridged. There's just no way they can do that. But what I'm excited about is that Robert Glenister is featured in both of those collections. And I think, I mean, Zossima can actually, you know, you two probably both have favorite readers, not just Dale and Fry, but there's one who did a version of Zossima, help me out here. The King Solomon's Mines.
Stefan Rudnicki.
That's right, and he does such an extraordinary reading of that book that my family still, I don't know how long these CDs will hold up, but we treasure that collection of King Solomon's Mines.
that's the one recorded book that that I can do quotes to you in the voice, and you'll get it. Like if I go Maku Mazan da Watcha by night, you know exactly you know the
White
character.
man from the stars. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, there's really it's a thing. But Robert Glenister, I think, may be my favorite reader. I think he's better than Dale and Fry because he has they don't neither Dale nor Fry, at least I listened to Fry only tiny bits, do the accents, the variety of accents that are demanded, at least in the Corman Strike novels. Anyway, that's my prejudice. But so yeah, I'm interested in this, but no, outside of Christmas Pig, I haven't seen full cast audio dramatizations unabridged. So I mean that's still the high bar, and that's what I'm going to be measuring Sorcerer's Stone about.
Okay, so that partially answers some of my next one, which is about hopes and fears and expectations. So Zossima, is there before you listen to it, what were your expectations for this?
I didn't have. I went into it with a relatively open mind. I was just hoping it wasn't bad. I just hoped that they weren't going to. My main hope was I really hope this doesn't ruin the Jim Dale version for me with another voice in my head. And as I listened to I was unable not to do this while I listened to this full cast version. I listened to the Jim Dale version so many times that every single line of the full cast book, I played the Jim Dale version back in my head and compared it. And so my hopes were, I hope this doesn't suck. My fear was, I'm afraid this is going to change how I interact with these books. And so I had pretty high expectations. I have a very high bar for Harry Potter recordings, and those were my hopes, fears, and expectations.
Wow. And John?
Well, I think that what you just said, Nick, about how many billions of hours people listen to these things, that Zossima's condition of familiarity with another version is probably going to be fairly typical of people coming into these things. Either that, or they have the Warner Brothers film adaptations in their heads as much as they have the text. I came into this really just excited about revisiting Stone on audiobook for the first time in years. You know that we're putting together this online class that's largely focused on Harry Potter. And so I was excited about hearing this, because when you hear it as opposed to watching the movie, you're still imagining it. You're still, even with the sound effects, this, that, and the other, the sound effects simply give your imagination more to chew on, more to fill out the picture, more cues for that. This radio dramatization effect is so much more powerful than the film medium in terms of engaging the imagination. It's still very different than the textual one, which is more demanding on your imagination, but it really pulls you in so much more easily that it's exciting.
Zossima.
Also, Nick, as you know, we're doing
sorry,
Nick?
John. Zossima.
Sorry, I have to get off for a couple minutes, but please continue. I'll be right back.
All right.
Okay.
As you know, Nick, we're doing a very close reading of Roland Galbraith's latest
Yeah.
book, Hallmark Man. And so I was excited about going to Philosopher's Stone because I thought, wow, this is the beginning and the at least most current. We hope it's not the end, right? That reading, Hallmark Man in depth, part by part, chapter set ring by chapter set ring. I thought, what is this going to tell me about really what has remained the same across Rowling's work? Am I going to see golden threads come across this? And yeah, I did. But most interesting to me was Philosopher's Stone is 17 chapters long, Nick.
Yeah.
As you know, we just charted part 2 of Hallmark Man and part 3, but part 2 is 17 chapters long. And it's the longest part of Hallmark Man, but that's it's an amazing thing to realize that now Rowling has matured as a writer so much that this is 1 out of 10 parts in an epilogue in her latest novel. The children's book that she wrote that opened the gates to the whole Rowling Studies experience was that long. I mean, that's been a remarkable thing. So I didn't have any real fears. I don't think it was like when I see a film adaptation, I really do fear it's going to displace a lot of my imagined pictures of it. As anybody who's watched the Warner Brothers films, they've had their ideas of these characters changed. As the television adaptation will do the same thing. But a radio show type adaptation, dramatization, full cast, unabridged, I was excited and had only really high hopes for it.
So I think for me, growing up in the UK, if you have the opportunity to listen to a lot of radio drama, a lot of dramatizations, so that the BBC, the best of the BBC adaptations, they make it onto Audible and they're really very good. A few of the ways they adapt them wind me up. So in the most recent Northanger Abbey, actually the book they're reading isn't The Mysteries of Udolpho, and you just wonder, well, why did they change the book? It's paralleling a specific book. Why have you got them reading a different book? It just makes no sense. But they're usually very well done. The ones that aren't so well done, you don't get to hear so much outside of the UK. We have a soap opera on the radio called The Archers, which I'm also addicted to. But the Foley on that is abysmal. You stir a cup of tea and you worry for their porcelain. People open and close doors like they're entering prison chambers. I mean, it's just awful Foley work. So one of my fears was they were going to be too exuberant on putting the sound effects in there. And the second fear, I think, is related to yours, is I can't watch films because it won't hold my imagination. So I find my imagination going somewhere else, and all of a sudden I'm forgetting the plot. With audiobooks, listening to one narrator, I can listen at 1.7 because that's working at about the same speed of my reading brain. That's about how fast I read, and so I can take that. And there's no excess loose brain there to get my mind to wander somewhere else. So that keeps me focused, keeps me interested. Sometimes I have to tweak it for specific narrators, but full cast, of course, you can't do that, because you've got different voices coming at you just far too quick. So I listen at 1.2, and my fear was going to be I wasn't going to be sinking myself into the story as I do with a narration, as I do when I'm reading. I'm going to be more sat there as an audience experiencing a performance, and I worried that was going to take my imagination somewhere else, and I was going to find myself distracted. But bear in mind, I'd only really experienced this once before with The Christmas Pig, and It didn't happen with the Christmas Pig, and it didn't happen with Philosopher's Stone. So my expectation is this will hold my interest for a 2-hour walk, a 40-minute drive. You're back. Hi again, Zossima.
Yeah, sorry about that.
So we've just covered our hopes and fears, and so we're now on to the biggest surprise, which I guess is going to be related to the previous one. But was there anything that really surprised you in the adaptation?
I wasn't expecting the radio aspect. I wasn't expecting the sound effects and the back. I thought it was going to be like the other full cast that I'd read, which is just the primary narrator and then different voices. And I was quite shocked by by all the sound effects, which in some situations had a very negative effect on me. Like, I think the first moment was when Hagrid has just rescued Harry from that damp little island, and he's taking them back to shore with the rowboat, and it has the sound of the water brushing past as they're talking, and it was so loud that I could barely hear them, and it's like, could you turn, like, I was like, what? I can't, like, I had both earbuds in, and it was like, Hagrid, can you speak up? Because this feels unnecessarily loud. Like, I don't care about the water. Like, just, if it is, then like in the Christmas Pig, I never felt that the sound effects were always perfect. But in this, also in the Quidditch match with the wind blowing, it was like, this feels too loud, and it so that was definitely the biggest surprise for me. I was pleasantly surprised that I actually recognized Hugh Laurie's voice as Dumbledore before the end credits, and it said, as Dumbledore, Hugh Laurie. And it's like, I actually knew that. Yeah. So it was a mixed bag for me. There were some pretty unpleasant surprises, but some pleasant.
John?
My biggest surprise was with the very first words, and we get Cush Jumbo, that there was a woman narrator. I don't know why. In the United States, maybe Cush Jumbo is known to everybody. I assumed Cush Jumbo was a man. I just didn't have any idea. And so the woman narrator comes in, and it was, what a great choice. It's surprising to me, having heard a woman narrate the story. As delighted as I was with the Jim Dale version, hearing the book read by a woman, I've heard Rowling read specific chapters at book releases and such, but it seems so perfect that a woman would be reading these books. And she has and her accent is so, it's not pronounced. I mean, is it a pronounced accent, Nick? Is it a BBC accent or something? But I was never distracted by her voice.
Yeah. So it's what would be described as RP, which is the BBC accent, received pronunciation. Okay.
Really, so well done. I mean, her voice goes up and down as the text demands, but it never as a distraction. No. And really so pleased with that, because the narrator will make or break this thing. You know,
Yeah.
it's the glue to the whole show. And Cush Jumbo, grand slam, perfect. But the biggest surprise after that, I echo Zossima, the use of the music and the sound effects was brilliant. It's simply the volume control. And only rarely did the sound effects make me do the, really, I don't need that much. I mean, you talked about, Nick, about the porcelain cup, that stirring the tea.
Yeah.
But the music was so good, especially I want to say during the running of the gauntlet of the obstacles to get to the mirror of Erised. The music in that sequence was so brilliantly done. And in the Forbidden Forest, on the detention escapade or whatever. And you may not even have noticed it because it was so well done. But it was gothic. It was creating tension and suspense. Really, as you said, Audible and Pottermore, they know this is for the ages, and they haven't cut any corners. So that was not only a surprise, because I really didn't expect so much of a dramatization, but wow, definitely worth the cost of entry.
So
Nick,
I think
were you surprised about anything?
I was. So yes, the music, 80-piece orchestra. I think that's unprecedented for an audiobook release.
What is ATP?
80-piece.
80 piece.
80-piece orchestra. So yes, I was really worried about the Foley because I've heard BBC bad Foley. We don't
You
tend
keep saying
to
Foley. What does that mean?
The Foley artist is the guys. Normally, when you're doing an audio recording, you'll do the voices first, and then you'll get guys in a basement somewhere, probably on minimum wage, will add the sound effects, and occasionally we'll see a documentary about it. So you'll footsteps going up the stairs. They won't actually have someone going up the stairs. It'll be somebody doing that on a desk, and so when it's done really well, you almost don't think about it. When it's done really badly, it's comic. So I didn't think the sound effects were done badly. They used a different technology on this audiobook release that they did compared to the Christmas Pig. So on this, they're using what they're calling spatial sound technology.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so you're supposed to be able to hear the sound effects if you're using cans. You're supposed to be able to hear the sound effects whiz around you. Now, my normal practice when I'm walking the dog is I'll only have one bud in, because I want to hear if a tractor's trying to overtake me, or there's an angry squirrel or something. I may need to take action, so I usually only have one bud in. Well, of course, when all the sound effects are coming over to that side, then absolutely I can't hear any of the. So then I've got to fish my other bud, and I found that mildly annoying. I hope they tweak it for the next release. I think the sound effects themselves were so good. I think they deserve a place in the background, but they need to be really conscious that not everyone is going to be in a quiet location with perfect sound cans on, so it doesn't find that the speech gets swamped.
I want to note that, I don't know, what did you call it? The surroundings audio?
It's spatial sound, yeah.
Yeah, because as they're going through the gauntlet, it changed depending on the quality of the chamber that they were in.
Yeah.
And I thought it was magnificent. That and the stadium actually gives you the effect of the stadium.
Yeah.
And that was very impressive, because usually the Quidditch scenes are a little bit awkward, because you're inside, you're Harry's, watching the game, and you're over his shoulder. It's the only place where you actually the only consistent place in which you see a different view. You actually get to see what's going on in the stands with Hermione and Ron, but also Hagrid occasionally, and the announcing with Professor McGonagall's supervision. Harry's not really seeing that. But
No.
all the time in this audio, full surround recording, you had the feeling that you were in a stadium with thousands of people, even if there aren't thousands of Hogwarts students. I find that really impressive. Anyway.
Okay. Quick fire then. So, voice actors. Is there one actor brought out a different dimension from the text than you were expecting? Zossima.
Do you want a voice actor who brought out a positive different aspect or a negative different aspect? Because
Let's go for one of each.
Well, I might have to do one. The positive, I absolutely adored the voice actor for Hagrid that they got. He was perfect, and it was funny to hear Professor McGonagall acted by the same voice actor as Ambition from Christmas Pig, because that was like, what? But she's a villain. That was and Hugh Laurie did do a good job as Dumbledore. I still prefer Jim Dale's voice for Dumbledore because that was always one of my favorite Jim Dale voices was Dumbledore.
Yeah.
And the voice they got for Voldemort in the final scene was very good. It was actually another one of the voice actors that I recognized, Matthew McFadden, who actually acts Mr. Darcy in Pride and Prejudice. And yeah, very intimidating voice.
Somewhat different role.
Yes, somewhat. This is early Darcy, very evil Darcy. Yeah.
Excellent.
And on to the negative impressions, the child actors they got for. Also, one more positive. The actor they got for Neville. And the fact that they made him from Liverpool, they gave him a Scouse accent. I loved that.
Yeah.
Like that gave me a new dimension for Neville, because it just was I'd never thought of that. But yeah, that's a perfect accent for this bumbling boy.
And of course he grows up to be a beetle.
Ringo.
Yeah.
Ringo Longbottom.
Well, yeah, I think, yeah.
Yeah. And on to the unfortunate negatives of that I discovered. Well, the two ones I had the most problem was the voice actor of Peeves and the voice actor for Draco Malfoy. I can forgive the voice actor of Draco Malfoy more because it's a child actor, and child actors are it's very difficult to be a good actor and a child, and the actor of Draco Malfoy decided to try to add a sinister chuckle to every single line, and I was like, I hate you now. I hate you more than Malfoy, because you're actively ruining Malfoy's lines by adding the at the end of each line. But that doesn't fit there, and you're making him look. He's supposed to be an actual villain, but you're turning him into this extremely childish villain, and so yeah, I did not like that at all. And the voice actor of Peeves, I felt so talked down to with his with what he decided to do with Peeves, because he was almost constantly laughing, but he wasn't laughing in the snide Peeves way that Jim Dale did, or just the books did. He was laughing in a way that an adult laughs. fake laugh an adult does to try and entertain a child that is very clearly insincere, even to the child. Like I remember as a kid, the adults I couldn't stand being around were the ones who would put on like a baby voice, or I didn't like being talked down to even as a kid, and I felt talked down to by the voice actor of Peeves, who is trying to. It just felt fake. Like it didn't feel like Peeves, and
I wonder if the actor was going for a Punch and Judy kind of laugh, because certainly in the UK the Punch character in Punch and Judy has got a similar kind of anarchic, violent sort of effect about them. So, but I'm not sure if that would translate to a US audience. Do you guys have Punch and Judy? Is that a thing? No.
Well, yes, but you have to search for it. It's not
Yeah.
ubiquitous like it is in the UK. Is it my turn?
It is.
All right. My positive one was Hagrid. They got Mark Addy or Mark Addy. I don't know how to pronounce his name. And I had flashbacks to Robbie Coltrane, which, of all my disappointments about the film displacing my mental picture of a character, the actor who played Hagrid, Rubeus Hagrid in the Warner Brothers film adaptations was beloved by me.
Robbie Coltrane.
Yeah, and I miss him. He's no longer with us, and so when the voice of Mark Addy came into things, it was so similar to me to Robbie Coltrane's that I thought, oh my gosh, how have they done this? Have they done this through artificial intelligence? I mean, it was. I felt my heart really being lifted up, and Mark Addy does a wonderful job too as Hagrid, especially all the way to the crying scene at the finish with the pictures of his parents. I thought it was well done, but Zossima's already covered that. I want to give a cover to both Peeves and to Draco. I think that those were not choices by the actors. I think that was the producer. I agree with him that those were problematic, especially for an American audience. But I blame that on what the producers were after. And yeah, this snidely whiplash, of Draco Malfoy is just kind of crazy. But to do something a little different, I'm going to say that Ronan the Centaur brought out a different dimension of the text for me. I never really, from an audiobook, I never really got the astrological aspect of this. The whole Mars is bright tonight type thing, and their concerns about fate and free will around that, and they're wanting to respect destiny. The voice actor for Ronan the Centaur, wasn't the Bane, over the top.
Yeah.
But that's actually in the text. The Bane is that way. The voice actor that did Ronan the Centaur gave me the Centaur view even more clearly than the one who plays Ferenz, which I always thought was Ferenzi. Forgive me out there. They brought out the different dimension. And again, I've read these books a few times. That was a surprise to me and a delight. Nick, what have you got?
So for me, I've listened to the audiobooks twice. That doesn't give me enough time to become so emotionally attached to that adaptation that I'm going to object to any interpretation from the all cast. I have seen the films, but I have not engaged with them. But actually, there's one actor in the films has completely supplanted my imagination of that character, and that was Alan Rickman. So much as I love Alan Rickman, I have his edited diaries back here. When I'm reading Snape or I'm listening to Snape via Stephen Fry, I hear Alan Rickman. So for me, it was a joy to hear another take on that voice that I can engage with. So I'm hoping, again, much as I love Alan, and I love what he did with the character, I'm enjoying expelling that from my conscience just for a little bit, so I can get another take, because of
Yeah,
course it wasn't written with Alan Rickman in mind. Alan Rickman was cast into a role that already existed.
it is a shame that, for all sorts of reasons, that Alan Rickman is not available
Yeah,
to do the reading on this, because I mean, Rickman used to joke that all the acting that he did was, looks of surprise or anger in
yes,
response to the child actors. So there wasn't really much acting involved. But when he spoke,
yeah,
he was so brilliant. I mean, he really just
yes.
captured that character. So we're gonna miss that thing. But I'm hoping that this voice actor, when he has many more lines, he did the first scene in Potions very well.
Which is
I should say
always
that.
a powerful scene.
Yeah, but it didn't bring out a new dimension of the text to me. So I'm looking forward to him, in later books, to see what we get when Snape, flowers, if you will, or I don't know what how you describe this.
I I'm I mean I'm really looking forward to the full cast version of Half-Blood Prince, because one of the after Snape's killed Dumbledore, spoiler alert,
Yeah.
and he's
What?
and
Snape killed Dumbledore?
and he's chasing, and Harry gets into that duel with Snape, and everything comes out. Jim Dale does this unbelievable performance of this Snape who's just killed Dumbledore, and after having read the books and going back to it, you can hear in his voice how horrified he is with himself, and how angry he is at Harry for not knowing what's going on, and but he can't tell him. And when Harry says, "Kill me like you killed him, you coward," and Jim Dale screams like, "Don't call me coward," and he puts so much, like every single emotion that needs to be in there, to that howl of agony, like, "Don't you dare call me a coward, you have no idea what's going on," and like what Dumbledore made me do to save him. And if they can do that as well, but with a different voice actor, I can't wait for that, because I didn't particularly enjoy this full cast, but it's also just the first book.
Yeah.
And so after I finished this one, I was like, I'm not going to listen to the rest of them, but I think I would be depriving myself if I didn't listen to the rest of them, because I want to see the different interpretations of all my favorite scenes, especially in Prisoner of Azkaban, Half-Blood Prince, and Deathly Hallows. Man, a full cast Deathly Hallows is going to.
Can you imagine?
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're coming out in rapid order, right? I mean,
They
Chamber
are.
of Secrets is coming out this month, right?
Just a week and a half away. So I've already got. I'm on a special deal with Audible at the moment. I'm on like 99p
Frequent flyers mileage, man.
Yeah. So I've pre-ordered the next one, and I've got the one middle of January as well. So yeah, it's going to be one a month up to the summer. How they're going to find the time to do all this just amazes me. Okay, so rapid fire again. Favorite scene in Sorcerer's Stone, and was it a delight or a disappointment? Zossima.
Favorite scene would be running the gauntlet. That's always been my favorite scene. Like the the final action scene. And yeah, I agree with Dad. The music was fantastic. Everything about it was incredibly well done. The voice actors for Harry, Ron, and Hermione had all the emotion that they needed. The final confrontation with Quirrell, yeah, it was great. I also really loved the Mirror of Erised scene with Harry and Dumbledore, and yeah, those are out of the whole audiobook. Those are probably my two favorites.
And John?
Zossima took my favorite, but I'm gonna really the tension in the forest scene is probably the most important scene in that book for me, because that's when I realized that these books had profound Christian content, because of the First Corinthians moment where, you know, Firenze explains to Harry about drinking the unicorn's blood will damn you or save you. That was a seminal moment in my life, because it really opened the door to my whole life as the dean of Harry Potter scholars. So I was a little concerned as we're going in the forest, like, oh, please don't blow this. Please don't make this up. And yet it was so good. I mean, they have the kids in the forest and they're nervous, and so they have mouth breathing, okay, of kids kind of like panting because they're looking around and they're nervous. And the sighs and the whimpering, and the Draco Malfoy guy is not laughing in there. He's I mean, he's terrified. And the sound effects were so good. And the music, I've talked about it already. And the conversation between Firenze and Harry about unicorn's blood, man, that was perfect. Because what it delivered was that what we just talked about, Nick, in our breakdown of the structure of part 3 in Hallmark Man. Yeah. We get fate, destiny versus courage and sacrifice. Here is Firenze, who knows that Harry is destined to die, but courage and sacrifice can overwhelm the destiny of, you know, where he was born and all of these things that the individual, by transcending themselves in sacrificial love, can overcome what was written in the stars. That's exactly what Rowling is after in that interview we talked about with Sasha Lagarde in Hallmark Man, and the bracketing of the 2 chapters around that, 30, 35, and 37. I think chapter 36 is the center there. To see that thread come all the way through and delivered in the story form, seriously, I didn't do a backflip, Nick, but I did a little, oh, that's exactly what I hoped for. And you gave it to me. I love it. What about you, Nick?
Oh, so for me, it's my favorite from the book has got to be Troll in the Dungeon, and the evolving relationship of Harry, Ron, and Hermione. It's Rowling when she's writing at her very best. It's characters she knows and loves. You know, there's Hermione, which is a reflection of her own childhood self. There's her best friend, Ron Weasley, is got many of the mannerisms of her best friend in school, and they're changing relationships, and they're forming of a bond between the 3 of them from the troll scene and on. And I thought it was incredibly well done. You know, when you have child actors, you don't expect a full range of a seasoned thespian like Dale or Fry, but guys, I'm old enough now that I'm like the parent at the nativity play when you see a child acting. Exactly, yes. Third donkey from the left, brother. Yeah, no, utterly charmed by all 3 of them. Okay, so now we come down to brass tacks. Fry, Dale, or full cast? So, seeing as we've all got some degree of audio addiction, what is your Harry Potter listening going to be going forward, Zossima?
Well, Jim Dale is still at the top for me, without a doubt. I would really like now to listen to the Stephen Fry version because I still am a little afraid that listening to it in a different voice will sabotage my uh, the will sabotage the many voices in my head that are actually healthy. And
Not
and
they're not good, not even in the wizarding world, Zossima.
no, yeah. But yeah, I uh, so I would rank Jim Dale first. I can't rank Stephen Fry yet because I haven't listened to it. Um, and the full cast version was incredible to me, both in positive and negative ways. And now I'm looking forward to listening to the rest of them.
Thank you, Zossima. And John?
Um, my Audible listening is still going to be only on long drives. Now it used to be at my work I could listen to things in my headset, but I'm not allowed to do that anymore. I mean, seriously, Troubled Blood, I must have listened to. I know I listened to it more than 15 times, and I listened to Rosmare's Home again and again and again. That was really important to me. But now I only listen to audiobooks when I'm obliged to for podcasts or on long drives. I do hope to. I do own a copy of Stephen Fry's thing on my Audible in my Audible library, and I do want to listen to him now do the first book in the series. And I am going to listen to the Audible versions as they come out, especially if they're still unabridged. That's my big worry, is that they're going to abridge these things. Nick, what about you?
Yeah, I'm committed to the Audible. I think they're going to find their way onto my re-listen list as well. But bear in mind, it's after 4 years I've listened to the Stephen Fry set twice, so I'm not. It's not going to be a listen every month kind of thing. I would like to listen to the Jim Dale. So as far as I can gather, from the Great Wars, transatlantic wars, Fry is best and Dale is best. Jim Dale does a better range of different voices. I'm not sure if that suits my listening, because I find I enjoy it best when I forget I'm listening to a voice. And just like when I'm reading, when I forget I'm reading, that's the best point because I'm actually inhabiting the story. Um, Obviously, full cast, you can't do that, and you are to some extent witnessing a performance. But for the first book, that was okay. So I'm committed now to listen to the series. And
And the I think, well, if you have anything like my experience listening to Jim Dale, you will, when you're inside that story, you will not believe that is one person. You'll feel like you're inside the story because he's so good at
yeah,
making each voice feel like the actual character. Like Hagrid's voice is Hagrid's voice. It's not Jim Dale. It's
no.
unbelievable. So I think you'll enjoy it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, please, if anyone has any pull with the license holders of the US Jim Dale,
Yeah.
I think the UK. I think you can get Jim Dale in Canada now, but still not in the UK. So whether he's got some beef with the UK, that's why he's emigrated, I don't know. Anyway, so we come to the final scores on the doors. So this is a rating between 1 and 5 stars, just like the Audible ranking. You're not allowed to give it 0 stars for some reason. So if it absolutely stinks, it's 1 star. If it's the best thing you've ever listened to, it's 5 stars. Zossima.
Ooh, actually, before this conversation, I would have given it 3 stars
Okay.
because of the parts I didn't enjoy. However, with your two perspectives, I've actually come to appreciate it more. So I'm gonna give it 4 stars.
4 stars. Okay, that's a good rating, John.
I'm going to go with 5 stars, Nick, because I was so impressed. I mean, the radio dramatization, giving you that ease of imaginative entry into the story,
Yeah.
and it's being unabridged with that narrator cast integration. That was so well done. I've got my Draco giggles issue. That definitely, I was cued to that by my son before I listened to it. And really, sometimes I was listening to it on my phone. The second voice would become inaudible, like the wonderful confrontation scene in the common room where Neville stands up to his friends. The voice was almost as if Harry had gone back up into the dormitory, and you could just barely hear Neville off in the distance. And I thought, what's going on with the second voice? Now, maybe that's because phones only give you a mono recording, and that you needed both earbuds, as you said, but that was very disappointing. It's like, wow, I'm hanging on this, and now I have this very distant character. And also I was impressed with the TV actors that they got to be the trio and their voicing of this. There's only one moment where Hermione is hearing the story of the confrontation before the mirror, and the text reads, and Hermione screamed, and that was the only time where Cush Gumbo, whatever her name is, she says, and Hermione screamed, and there was a pause, and there was a ah. Oh, come on. Yeah, you could have done that while she was saying it. You just gone on. But anyway, I'm excited about the TV adaptations now because the trio seemed very good. I was especially impressed with the Harry Potter character, who seems, if this kid's 11 years old, man, he's going to be a wonderful, wonderful actor. Anyway, Nick, what's your score?
So I've got a few quibbles. Likewise with the sound effects, which they need to solve with the next release and hopefully reissue with the first release. The technology is amazing, and the sound is amazing, but it needs to cope with, some people are just going to be listening with one bud. You may be listening just using your phone on mono. It has to be able to cope with those circumstances. Having said that, I listened to this over a period of 3 days, and every time I finished listening and before I started listening to the next chunk, I had a big grin on my face. I've already given it 5 stars on Audible. Really looking forward to the next one. And so I think we've answered a lot of the last question as well, but just maybe if we nail down on it one more time, so when the producers listen to this, they take it on board. Zossima, what would you change for the next 6 adaptations?
I'd like the producers to stop treating it like it is a children's book, but I feel like the producers were telling the actors at many times, like, kids are going to be listening to this, so kind of like dumb it down, because like that's why Draco is like giggling after every line, because it's like, okay, we have to let the kids know that he's a villain, and so I felt talked down to in several of the scenes where they were going over the top to convey something that could have been conveyed subtly. So yeah. I hope the next recordings will be more subtle.
Yes. And John?
What he said about Draco, I would say about you, Lowry. If this is straight to you, Dr. House, is you sound like you're very conscious of the fact that you're voicing Albus Dumbledore. I mean, does that make any sense? Yeah. It sounded like I have to sound Dumbledore-esque here.
Yeah.
It didn't have the natural voice that Lowry is clearly able to do for, characters as bizarre as Dr. House or Jeeves. I mean, that was disappointing. And I hope that Lowry, he's a magnificent actor. He can do that. But I don't have any other. The sound effects, the music, the narrator cast interaction. My only fear, and this is a little bit like the C.S. Lewis comment, right, about the two failings of Jane Austen novels is that they are too few and too short. My fear about the next books is that they'll be less complete as the books get longer. You know, we're not going to get that full cast dramatization thing in the depth that we got for this book when we get to, say, Order of the Phoenix, which is what, 3 or 4 times as long. I mean, it's how are they going to? Oh well, I hope they do. Hope they maintain the standard.
I hope so as well. They're available for pre-order now, and when I get my next batch of credits, almost certainly they're all going to come on. And I think the pre-orders people are going to be really cross if they find any reduction in this quality. I think that you can sense the amount of money that's been spent on this, and I think if they bring that quality down, that's going to disappoint a lot of people. I do hope they sort out the audio issues so that we can have everything. I know we always all want everything. We get the complex sound, we get the orchestral music, but also it's accessible for people that have to listen with just mono as well. Well, thank you, everyone.
Wow, so that's pretty close to a rave.
I think so. I think so. I think it's 4 3/4. Hey, that's nearly a train station, isn't it? 4 2/3. 4 2/3.
One more character we didn't mention is Dudley Dursley.
Yeah.
Vernon Dursley. Uncle Vernon is. I thought he did that very well, especially the Mads chase scene across England or whatever. That I thought was very good. Thank you both. This has been a pleasure.
Thank you, John.
I definitely wouldn't have listened to this except for this show, and I'm really glad that I did. Really glad that I did.
Well, maybe sometime after Christmas we'll get together and chat about whether our hopes and fears have been realized for Chamber of Secrets.
Yeah.
I'd like that. I'd like that.
Let's do it.
This is a wow. All right. And so, Nick, you and I have got part 4 coming up on Hallmark Man.
Yes.
Sandy Hope has already sent me her ring. I can't look at it yet.
Oh,
Sandy Hope has already done part 4. I mean, I love it. I mean, Sandy is really great. And I'm doing the names thing with the astrology spin on that. We got a lot of things going here at Hogwarts Professor. Thank you all who are subscribing.
Yes.
Especially in my time of need here in my neighbor's house studio. And we look forward to seeing you. We'll be recording again this month, right, Nick? What will we do next week? Actually,
we will be recording. 4. We will be recording next week. Thank you, John, and Zossima. Thank you for joining us. Your perspective has been a breath of fresh air.
Thank you for having me. It's a great pleasure to be on with you guys. As I think, Dad, you called me a member of Generation Hex.
Yeah.
The Harry Potter generation. Yeah, and I actually thanks to a podcast I did with Nick recently, I've gone back to look at a Harry Potter fan fiction idea I had like a decade ago that's been just percolating in my head, and I'm actually planning to write the first chapter, and hopefully both of you can read it and let me know what you think.
Wow.
Have you posted your conversation with Nick?
Yes, my first conversation with Nick is up on my Substack and on YouTube.
Links will be down below here, folks. If you want to hear about why you need to read Madame Bovary again, it's all down below.
If you like Madame Bovary, do not watch our podcast. Well, you can watch it for what Nick says about Madame Bovary, not for what I say. Avoid at all costs if you're a lover of Bovary.
Okay. Thank you, Zossima. Thank you, John. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.
Merry